Hi, it's Karen with Living Our Dream Homestead, where today we're going to be making apple streusel pie. If you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, please click the button down below. Well, let's go ahead and get started. First thing we need to do is turn on our oven to 400 degrees. We are going to be using a pie pan today. You can use glass or you can use a metal one. That would be okay as well. Let me go ahead and turn around the camera so I can show you how to make this delicious apple streusel pie. First thing we will need is half a cup of unsalted butter. Now this butter, I ended up cutting it up into more like cube-like, and then I ended up freezing it because we want our butter frozen or hard as possible, because that way it makes a perfect crust. So the first thing we're going to go ahead and do, and I just, like I said, just took this out of the freezer. We are going to go ahead and take 1 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour that I have right here and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. We are going to be go ahead and using our food processors today. If you do not have a food processor, you would need to go ahead and mix the salt into the all-purpose flour and then work your butter into the flour in a bowl using a pastry cutter, which I have right here. But we are going to go ahead and use my food processor today. So I'm going to go ahead and put the flour and the salt in here, and we're going to pulse it between maybe about eight pulses. We want to have the salt mixed with the flour. If you have a smaller food processor like I do, I'm just putting a little bit of butter at a time in there and then pulsing it up. So it looks like my food processor cannot handle the butter. As you can see, I guess all the way down there at the bottom, it looks like the butter is all underneath the blade. So it is not mixing up for me. So I'm going to go ahead and pour it in a bowl and finish it out with the pastry cutter. Your pie crust should look like crumbs. Now we are going to go ahead and add in 3 to 4 tablespoons of ice cold water. I had this bottle in the refrigerator, so I'm going to go ahead and put that in there. If we put too much water in there and it's too wet, we'll need to add a little bit more flour to our pie crust dough. Now that my dough has become clumpy, I'm going to go ahead and make it into a disc and wrap it in some plastic wrap. Now that I have wrapped the crust in the plastic wrap, we're going to go ahead and put that in the refrigerator and let it chill for the 30 minutes. We'll go ahead and start working on the filling. I am going to be using Pink Lady apples. We are going to be using the whole bag, which is 3 pounds. And we need to go ahead and core our apples and, of course, take off the skins, peel them, and then thinly slice them. Here, I took off all the skins, and I just want to show you, this apple actually looked perfect on the outside, but as you can tell, it is just starting to get the little brown around the center where it's going to start to rot. So I'm just going to cut around the bad spots, the brown, because again, you don't want that in your pie. And just again, cut your pieces a little bit more thinly. If you don't want to use Pink Lady apples, you can use Granny Smith or Jonathan apples. All those 3 varieties hold up well during baking. Now that our apples are cut up and in the bowl, we are going to be adding a 1/3 cup of granulated cane sugar, which I have right here. And then we'll mix that into our apples. And now we'll be adding in 2 tablespoons of all-purpose flour, and then we'll stir that in. And now we'll be adding in 1 teaspoon of freshly squeezed lemon juice, and then we'll mix that in. Now we'll be adding in 1 teaspoon of grated lemon rind, and now we'll be adding in 1/2 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. Now that our filling is ready, we are going to push it aside and we are going to go ahead and roll out our pie crust. Now we need to go ahead and put our pie crust on a lightly floured surface. I'm actually just using wax paper so it just doesn't stick. That's just usually my go-to. If you have one of those special mats that usually people roll out their pastry dough on, you could use that as well. And we are going to be using a rolling pin, and we're just going to roll one way, then the other way, until we can get it a little bit bigger than our pie plate, so that we can go ahead and put it into our pie pan. And here is mine. It is a little oddly shaped, but I will make it work. And this is how you can tell if it's big enough. When you lay down your pie thing, it's definitely bigger over in here, and then of course it's a little over there. So I'll have to use a little bit of this and piece it over there to make it fit. Well, here's my pie crust. It looks pretty good. Looks decent. I had some scraps left over, so I will do those. I don't know if any of you guys ever did this. My mother would do it when I was younger. She would roll out the extra scraps of the pie dough, and I would go ahead and bake it in the oven. And I would prick it all over, and then I would put some jam on it. And it was just so good. I just, it's like your own little pastry. With it, and that's what I'm going to use mine with. I think it would be great with some peach preserves with it. I'll show you that at the end with my pie. Well, let's go ahead and take our filling and fill our pie crust. Okay, we've got the filling in the pie crust. Now we're going to go ahead and work on the topping. First, we need to take a small bowl, and in it we're going to put half a cup of all-purpose flour, which I have right here. And next we will put in half a cup of packed brown sugar that I have right here. And now we will put in half a teaspoon of cinnamon, and we'll mix this up. Now that that's been mixed up, we are going to add in a 1/4 cup of unsalted butter. This is cold butter. We're going to work the butter into the dry ingredients. Now that our butter is worked into our dry ingredients, we need to go ahead and take our crumb topping and sprinkle it over our apples in our pie. Now that the crumb topping is on, we need to go ahead and put it in the 400-degree oven for 15 minutes. Then we are going to reduce the temperature to 350 degrees, and we are going to cover the pie loosely with foil and bake for 45 to 50 minutes. It's been about 45 minutes. I have removed the foil, and I'm going to go ahead and bake it another between 5 to 10. I want my crust a little bit more brown, and then the pie should be done. The pie is all done. This pie baked about 55 minutes. I wanted to get the crust a little bit more brown. We'll let it cool so we can go ahead and have a piece. Now, to use your leftover pie crust, I just kind of patted or rolled mine out, and then I poked it all over with a fork. You can put it on a cookie sheet, or I usually just put mine in a cake pan, and then you put it in a 350-degree oven, and we are going to bake it until it's golden brown. It may take up to about 10 minutes. It may be a little bit less. Here's the pie crust scraps. This is how I do it. I put my favorite jam on it. And I don't usually eat the whole thing if it's that big, but if it's just a little bit, yeah, I'll eat the whole thing. And I like it too sometimes when it's a little bit warm as well. So let's go ahead and have a taste test. Well, let's go ahead and have a taste test of our pie scraps. I showed you up close what it looked like. That is delicious. Sometimes the crust is sometimes better than the actual filling itself. But this is the extra stuff that I like to do with the scraps from the pie. Well, let's go ahead and try the apple pie now. Well, let's go ahead and have a taste test of this apple streusel pie. Now, I don't know about you, I like my pie warm. Let me know down in the comments if you like your pie warm or cold. See if I can get a little bit of ice cream with it. It's delicious. You can taste that lemon peel and the cinnamon. Oh my goodness. I don't want to eat too much because I have not had my dinner yet. Well, do you use a fork to eat your pie or do you use a spoon? I just use a spoon. Sometimes I use a fork. It's very rare, but I usually use a spoon. Let me know down in the comments about that as well. Well, thank you for watching. This was Karen with Living Our Dream Homestead. I hope you have a good day.